Welcome to Viva La Vulva, the podcast that explores and teaches about the goodness of the vulva. Here is your host, Dr. Cara Quant, an internal medicine doctor and advocate for female sexual health.
Hello, and welcome to the Viva La Vulva podcast. I am your host, Dr. Cara Quant. There's people who come in all the time, and I have to educate and re-educate about some myths that they have heard. So I want to come on and dispel some of these myths for you all because I feel like it is really important. I am debunking an understanding of our health. We're leaving behind misconceptions that I hear a lot in practice, but that brings us up to inflammation. Why inflammation matters and how to reduce it naturally. I am always prescribing ibuprofen, naproxen, sometimes steroids, which are anti-inflammatory as well. I mean, we have so much inflammation in our body. Inflammation happens because of stress. It happens because of the foods that we're eating. It happens for so many different reasons. Things that we're doing to our bodies. If we've injured ourselves, we have the inflammation too. Anti-inflammatories are absolutely the thing that I'm prescribing. Things like I'm prescribing it for headaches, joint pain, menstrual cramps, injuries. So inflammation is involved in all of these. But chronic inflammation is also linked to heart disease and diabetes, autoimmune conditions, even depression. So there are two types of inflammation, right? There's acute inflammation, which is something that we need. Fall and hit our knee, and so we have a scratch on our knee or a cut on our knee. There are inflammatory cells that come to help with reconstructing that area. There's things that help with bringing platelets to the area to help with stopping bleeding, and bring things that help with remodeling the skin so that cut can heal. So those are good things that happen. You sprain an ankle, but it gets better over time because of those good inflammatory markers. Short term, it generally resolves over time, but we also can have chronic inflammation. That is the thing that is problematic. We have a lot of stress in our life. We have this low grade persistent inflammation throughout the body, which can contribute to chronic diseases. So things like kidney disease, diabetes, elevated blood pressure, because of your inability to relax the blood vessels. And these are things that are often silent. There's so many people that come in with elevated blood pressure that I see. They're like, oh, but I feel fine. And I'm like, yeah, you feel fine, but you have elevated blood pressure. So we have to address that. Some people often want to do it naturally, which I am all about. And that's generally with weight loss. Weight loss can improve your high blood pressure naturally without the antihypertensive medicines that sometimes or oftentimes are prescribed by the provider. There's a lot of silent things that can happen with chronic inflammation in the body. And so what are some of the root causes? One of those big things is a poor diet. So highly processed foods, usually things that come in bags that crinkle, when you open them, are not necessarily good because they're generally high processed. Sugary stuff, chronic stress, lack of sleep for many different reasons, sedentary lifestyle, obesity. Actually, the fat cells in the body can produce inflammatory compounds. So becoming obese usually with poor diet habits, but also the fat cells can cause some inflammation in the body. And smoking. Cigarettes, even cannabis can cause inflammation, especially in the lungs, and it can cause things to activate in order to get these irritants out. So smoking, cigarettes, even cannabis can do that. So, what are some anti-inflammatory things that we can eat to help reversing this chronic inflammation that we have in the body? Well, contrary to RFK's belief that the food pyramid should be changed to incorporating red meats and dairy into our lifestyle was, I feel, not the right way of doing things. I do agree that removing highly processed foods is extremely helpful. I just don't think that adding the red meats and dairy is going to help with reducing inflammation in the body because, again, these are pro-inflammatory things. I personally follow the American Heart Association guidelines on foods to eat, and I would definitely recommend that you do the same, especially if you are in the US, because there's some twisted things that are happening in this current political climate. Like I said, subscribe to the American Heart Association guidelines on what to eat. So things like eating the rainbow, that actually comes from the website. Eating abundant in fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grains can really support your body and reduce inflammation. Things like olive oils, avocado oil, and different things like that are good in terms of primary fat. Reducing the amount of dairy that you're taking into your body. And there's so many things that have dairy in it, right? Butter, certain creamers, like coffee creamers. There's so many things that contain dairy, but moderating the amount of dairy that you put in your body. Fish and poultry is often better than red meats, especially when it comes to things like your cholesterol. So if you are not wanting to do plant-based, which is okay, doing things that are more lean, chicken, salmon, like things like that are better than red meats. Things like herbs and spices are a lot better to put on your foods rather than salt. There is something called the DASH diet, which is reducing the amount of salt in your body, which can generally increase your blood pressure over time. Reducing that salt by adding in herbs and spices can definitely help with reducing inflammation in your body. And what specific foods are anti-inflammatory? Omega-3 fatty acids, walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds, fish. There's also berries that can do it. I know I drink a berry and banana smoothie every morning because it is quick, but it also provides so many nutrients for my body. So blueberries and strawberries do have these things called anthocyanins, which have anti-inflammatory properties to them. Things like leafy green vegetables, spinach, kale, and collard greens can definitely help that. I feel like there's been this new trend, which is a good trend to incorporate into our lifestyle, turmeric. Especially the thing that's within turmeric, curcumin, is a potent anti-inflammatory agent, better absorbed with black pepper, but it can provide some anti-inflammatory effects. And there's actually patients who come in on a maybe not regular basis, but say, hey, I don't want to take those ibuprofens or naproxen that you're prescribing. I rather take some turmeric pills to try and help with reducing the inflammation. And I think it's great. You can do it naturally. You can do it with the foods that you're eating. But I do believe in turmeric and its ability to reduce inflammation. Ginger can really help, both fresh and as a tea, can help reduce inflammation as well. Green tea and dark chocolate. What are foods that promote inflammation? Refined carbohydrates, so things like the white breads and the pastries, fried foods, things like processed meats, so bacon and sausage and deli meats. Excessive alcohol can do it. Trans fats, which have been taken largely out of the food supply, but you could still find trans fats out there. And then just high sugar foods and beverages like Coca-Cola and chips, even though they are good tasting, they are not good for you. You know, we don't have to be perfect. Nobody is perfect. It's all about the overall pattern. Can you be consistent with it rather than being perfect with it? I always like to think abundance abundantly rather than thinking limited, thinking what can I add to my foods rather than being what is restricting. I know I've been doing that for my cleanse that I've been doing for the last few days already. Okay, there's so many things that I cannot eat, but what can I add to my food that is going to be good and supportive? Yeah, I want to think abundantly rather than thinking restricted. Swapping refined grains for whole grains. And you can do it gradually. White breads. I actually never grew up on eating white bread. I know like friends and stuff would eat white bread. And so I would like, oh, this is better for you. But we used to eat whole wheat in my family. And I feel like my parents, especially my mom, was really good at incorporating healthier foods in our diet rather than, and also limiting the amount of times that we could go to McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, and all of the fast food chains. I feel like it was like a once a week thing rather than like a daily thing. Using certain like olive oil for cooking rather than using vegetable oil or the other types of oils that are not the best of supporting your immune function, as well as inflammation in your body. Adding on things like nuts to your snack, adding on fish, if you do eat fish, into your weekly diet. And so what is the connection to sexual health? Well, it is everything. There's so many things that can impact our sexual function. Blood flow is absolutely vital for a male to get erect, even women to get erect. We definitely need that adequate and good blood flow. But if you're having things like atherosclerosis, if you have elevated blood pressure, if you have diabetes, those blood vessels are getting smaller and narrower, and things aren't going to work as well. Blood flow to all parts of your body is absolutely vital. And when we add on things that are high in cholesterol and high in sugar, it affects that blood flow to those vital areas, especially when we are having sex. Like I said, it's important for arousal in all genders, and inflammation can affect hormone balance and energy levels as well. I mean, you may not want to have sex if you have a lot of inflammation in your body. You don't feel good about yourself. Inflammation can be harmful for our bodies, and good blood flow is good for our bodies. Reducing, again, the inflammation, helping with our blood flow is going to be good for our sexual function. I still prescribe anti-inflammatories when I need to. There is a place for them. There's a place for antibiotics as well. I generally want to limit it, and I really want to put that point out there that it's not the end all be all. And I wish we were in a society that was more about prevention than we were about how to get someone well after they are sick. So I am all about prevention. I practice that on a regular basis in my own life, because I've seen the effects that it can have, like poor health can have on people's way of living. Prevention is absolutely key in my life and always better than treatment. And thanks for joining me today on the Viva La Vulva podcast. I am your host and internal medicine physician, Dr. Cara Quant. If you like this podcast, please let others know and subscribe. Also, if you want to hear more information about what's happening with Viva La Vulva, hop over to our website at vivalavulvala.org and sign up for our newsletter.